Hey everybody, I'm Chef Tom with allthingsbbq.com, and this is Dr. Pepper Baby Back Ribs. That's right, today we're about to get sweet and saucy with some Dr. Pepper Baby Back Ribs. We're gonna be loading up the smoker with these ribs today, give them a good smoke, wrap them up and braise them in a Dr. Pepper based braise, and finish them off with a Dr. Pepper infused barbecue sauce. All right, so here we got a rack of baby back ribs. We're just gonna do a little bit of trimming. We need to get the membrane off the back. We need to square off the sides. Make sure that we don't have anything that's going to poke through the foil later on when we wrap these up. For example, this bone right here, popping right out the edge. Go ahead and get rid of that because that's just going to be in the way. Got a little bone at the bottom to cut around. Just slice that end right off and square everything up. Now we'll do the same thing down here at the shorter end. I'm gonna find this last bone. We've got a really tiny one right here, so we'll go ahead and just square that off. Clean it up and make it look nice. Then we come down to this little skirt, this flap that's just gonna burn up while we're smoking, so we're gonna take that off. And then we'll move on to take off the membrane. So this membrane here, this is, if you've ever bit into a rib and on the back side there's this kind of like piece of papery parchment that peels off, that's what this membrane is. And so we remove it for a couple different reasons. One, because you don't necessarily want to be chewing on that. And once you can get a hold of this thing with your paper towel, you can check out how we've got a glossy side and a more matte side. That's because we're taking the membrane off and exposing the flesh, and once you've done that, you can go ahead and rip the whole thing off. And now you've opened up all of this meat that you can now season and get smoke through, as opposed to putting it on top of the parchment, which is just gonna peel off in the end anyway. And then I'm just gonna run my hands along the edges, make sure we don't have anything sharp sticking out, anything that you don't want to chew on. Now we do have these little bones that are kind of stuck. It's just the knob of it that's kind of stuck right in between our bones, and it's gonna make it a little bit difficult to cut. So we could take these off now, but if we do, we're gonna kind of tear up all this meat. So I'm just gonna let it be, and we'll deal with that after the cook. So I'll square this up now so we don't have any stringy bits hanging off. Kind of do the same thing on the opposite side. These stringy bits that are just going to burn up anyway, you can take those off. If you want to take some fat off, you can. You don't need to. This fat's going to be fine right here. But I'm not getting too fussy with this. We're not cooking competition barbecue. We're cooking for our friends and our family. So this is all we need to do. So we got those ribs trimmed up, pretty simple. We're going to move on to getting our seasoning on these, including our mustard slather, and then we can get them on the grill. So we're going to start off by putting down a binder with our Big Rick's jalapeno honey mustard. You don't have to go super heavy on this. Probably got a little bit more than I need down here, so we'll share that around. But we just want to get the entire surface covered in this mustard. And this mustard's going to be used in the braise as well. Otherwise, you could just be using a plain mustard. You could use hot sauce, whatever you like. It adds a small amount of flavor, but in the end, this one's not going to be as noticeable as the rubs. Speaking of the rubs, we're going to go ahead and do something a little interesting today, where we're going to season the back side of the ribs and the top side of the ribs a little bit differently. So we're going to start on the back side with Our Butts Are Smoking Honey Chipotle. It's got a nice little bite on it. So think about when you take a bite out of your ribs, typically the way you hold it is with that rib arching up, and the first thing that your tongue hits is the bottom side of that rib. So you're gonna get just that little bit of kick out of the honey chipotle. It's not too heavy, it's just the right amount, and it's got just a little bit of sweetness. So you're gonna get just a sweet and salty with a little bit of kick right on your tongue as you take that first bite, because this is going to be a pretty sweet rib. If you like sweet ribs, this is the one for you. The top side's gonna be glazed in sugary sauce, so we wanna break that up by offering something a little bit salty and a little bit spicy on the bottom. And as I shake this on, I'm making sure to get full coverage. We want this seasoning on every last little inch of our ribs. Don't have to be shy with it. Now the rub needs to attach before we can flip these over, but if you want to go ahead and speed that up, you can add a little bit of spray oil or fat to the back to help it stick. We've got the sprayed duck fat today. Not enough to like wipe it off of there, just enough to make it cling. So now we can flip these over without fear of losing our rub. Go ahead and repeat the process starting with the Big Rick's jalapeno honey mustard. Massage that into all the little nooks and crannies. And then for the top side, we're gonna be switching up the rub for something a little bit sweeter. We're going with the Killer Hogs The Barbecue Rub. I think they call it The Barbecue Rub because this is one that everyone should have in their pantry. Just a standard barbecue rub, great flavor, nice sweetness to it, beautiful red color. You're gonna see as we smoke these things, that red color is really gonna shine. So again, we want this rub to tack up on the surface. It should start to darken in color as it attaches to the meat. And you can actually see what that looks like right here. That dark red color, it looks wet all across the surface. These are ready to go onto the smoker. Today we're smoking on the Yoder Smokers YS640S pellet grill. We're running at 275 with cherry pellets. And I'm doing cherry straight up because I really want to intensify that red color on the outside as well as the way that smoke complements the Dr. Pepper in the end. Now I told you we were going to load it up today, which is why we've got the Yoder Smokers 3-tier rack in here. Because we can get about 4 to 5 racks on each one of these. We could even do 4 or 5 on the bottom if we wanted to. We're going to start here on the bottom. We're going to go 4 to a rack today. But you've really got the room to go up to about 16 or so if you want to, total. And I love how these conveniently pull out, so they're a little bit easier to load. Yeah, we'll be feeding the whole neighborhood today. Throw one beauty right there on top. I'm pretty stoked on these new 3-tier racks. I've been playing around with them. The ability just to feed a crowd, I mean really feed a crowd. Incredible accessory you can pick up at allthingsbbq.com or here in the store. But at this point in the cook, there's nothing to do but wait. We probably got 3 to 4 hours before these are ready to wrap. And how are we gonna know that they're ready to wrap? All by look. We're going by color, we're going by texture. We can see what's going on the outside. Should be some pockets kind of formed on the surface where there's some moisture. There should be a nice red mahogany color. We're waiting for all that to happen, but that just takes time. We're 4 hours into the cook now, and these ribs are starting to look really nice. I want you guys to get in here and take a look. So check these out. I mean, this is exactly what we're looking for. We talked about we want some pooling on the top. It shouldn't look dry anymore. The color is that nice mahogany brown. Great red colors going on, but it's getting a little bit darker than that. And that's what we're going for. So we're gonna pull these off to wrap them now. Man, these smell fantastic right now. Nice and smoky. Ah. Woo, come on. Look at that. So now it's time to prepare a little braising liquid to cook the ribs in almost until the end of this cook. And it's time to introduce Dr. Pepper. So we are going to be combining Dr. Pepper with our jalapeno honey mustard from Big Rick's to make a really nice braising liquid. We're gonna pour a little bit of that into each wrap these up and get them back on the grill. All right, so we are gonna go 4 parts of Dr. Pepper to 1 part of our honey mustard. And since we got a big old stack of ribs, I'm gonna multiply this over 3 times. We can also break this recipe down for you to a little bit more manageable size for those of you who don't want to cook for the whole neighborhood. And whisk it up. Now we're gonna double wrap these in foil because you've always got these little edges of the bones that poke out and wanna poke a hole in there, and then you lose all your braising liquid. Before we add that braising liquid, we're just gonna hit the back side of the ribs one more time with that honey chipotle from Our Butts Are Smoking. And then we're gonna add only about 1/4 to 1/2 cup to each one of these. So I like to gather the foil in the middle, roll it down nice and tight, and then roll in the edges. And this is super tight so that there's not much room in there for air to cause steam to affect our bark in a negative way. So again, doubling up on the foil. Meat is going meat side down. The ribs are going meat side down, I should say. We've been cooking them bone side down for the entirety of the cook so far. And that's to kind of provide a nice thermal barrier between the bone and the meat from where the fire was coming from. But from here on out, we want the meat down below to really braise in this liquid. So we put it meat side down so that liquid just kind of works its way around the ribs, braising it, tenderizing it, and adding all that extra flavor. All right, we got the tower of ribs. Let's head back to the smoker. All right, so again, we're going meat side down this time. Again, we're sliding 4 onto each one of these racks, but we definitely could go a little bit tighter, and I bet we get a good 16 racks on with the new 3-tier rack going. But that's gonna work perfect for what we're doing today. I've turned the temperature up to 325 now, just because I'm impatient. I like it to go a little bit faster, so we're just gonna let these braise away. My guess is for the next hour. Could take longer, you never know. So we'll be back to check on the flexibility of the package here in about 45 minutes to an hour and see if those are just about done. Now while the ribs are finishing up their cooking, we're gonna put together our Dr. Pepper glaze. We're gonna brush over right at the end. And that's gonna start by making a Dr. Pepper reduction. We're gonna reduce this down until it's syrupy and then mix it into our barbecue sauce. Now for like a 3-rib batch, I would probably start with about 2 cups of Dr. Pepper here. And we wanna reduce this down until it's just syrupy in general, but volume-wise, probably about 2 to 3 tablespoons of syrup. So we'll turn on the induction burner, bring that up, probably medium-high until it comes to a simmer, and then we'll turn it down. All right, so once we've coming up to a boil, we're just gonna turn this down. We wanna keep it kind of at a gentle simmer as it's reducing. And take your time with this. Just go slow, low temperature. You can get this done faster, but if you go too quick, chances are you're gonna overshoot it, scorch it, and have to start over anyway. So just let it go at a low simmer until it's nice and syrupy. Well, we're reduced way down now. You see as I pull the wooden spoon through, it takes a long time for that syrup to fill back in. The bubbles are nice and big. It's kind of sticky. So I've turned this way down now, and we're gonna add to it our barbecue sauce to complete the glaze. Now what we're putting in here is the Smoke on Wheels Kansas City bootleg sauce. We wanna add about a cup of that. Now this is a great barbecue sauce on its own, but in addition to the bourbon infused in it, it also has a bit of Dr. Pepper in there. So we're fortifying that Dr. Pepper flavor. Now I'm just gonna leave this on low, let it kind of thicken up a bit because it's gotten loose again. We want it a little bit tacky when we paint it on the ribs. All right, we've been braising about an hour now, so I wanna check on the doneness, just where these are at, kind of initially by picking up a package, and you'll kind of just feel for the flexibility. And you see how this one's bending pretty easy. That tells me that it's probably pretty cooked. When you get one that's like that, I like to go ahead and open it up and take a look. All right, so there's a few things that we're looking for here. When I look at the back and I can see that those bones are exposed a bit, see how much that meat's pulled back, that tells me that these are gonna be pretty tender. As I flip this thing over and pick it up in the center, you see how it starts to break right there? That tells me these are fully done for sure. Also, if we do the little wiggle test, you start to move the meat around the bone and you see that meat move freely. That means all of that stuff is broken down and these are super tender and ready to finish. Now as these finish up, And as soon as we unwrap them, we're just gonna put them back on the racks here open and glaze them up with our Dr. Pepper Glaze. There's that bootleg sauce in there as well. Man, the sauce, it's crazy how much Dr. Pepper you get off of it. Since this sauce is reduced down just a little bit, that makes it a little extra sticky, and then it tacks up that much easier. But I'd like to give it about 15 minutes to finish out here on the grill before we pull them. We're just gonna let that sauce set up on top. And we'll just continue to do this until all these racks are done. Those are some good looking ribs. All right, we've given these about 15 minutes to tack up on the surface. I gotta say, these are some beautiful looking ribs. And the smell's just killing me. We gotta get these sliced up. All right, so we're gonna slice into this, and now I don't wanna flip this over and just lose all that sauce, but come get in here close and check this out. Here we can see some of those little bits of bones, just those nubs that we talked about earlier. So we wanna make sure we don't eat any of those for sure, but also they may be in the path of slicing, so just keep that in mind as we start to slice these up. So when I'm slicing from the top and I can't see the bone as well, I like to put a finger up here at the top and one at the bone down here at the bottom, and that way I know where to aim right in between those bones. And we hit one of those nubs on that one, but that's okay, we'll get through it. So you can see here, we got a side shot of that one still. Oh man, that juice is just dripping out. You see that running down? Let's get a little bite on it. Boy, that's like competition done right there. That perfect bite through. You know, for eating at home, I might even have them a little bit more tender, and you'll find that as these racks start coming off, they're at slightly different donenesses. So if you got someone who loves that fall off the bone rib, we can totally go there. In fact, one of these ribs I bet we can get down at the end here, and you'll find where these guys, look at that, the bone even just slips right out of there. So that's totally up to your personal preference where you're gonna pull that. These babies still slice just as well. They're still just as juicy. Oh my gosh, that's crazy. But when you go for that bite on them, they want to pull away from the bone. Fantastic. There's just this little bit of pepper that makes everything in that sauce pop. It's not spicy, but it makes the Dr. Pepper better. It makes the barbecue sauce better. And man, they're so tender and juicy, like you just can't complain. Well, thank you guys so much for watching. Be sure to check out allthingsbbq.com for all of the products featured in today's video, or just click that link in the video description down below. If you enjoyed the recipe, please hit that subscribe button. And if you have any questions or comments, or there's anything you'd like to see me cook, let me know in the comment section down below, and let's be good to one another. For more recipes, tips, and techniques, head over to allthingsbbq.com/thesauce. All Things Barbecue, where barbecue legends are made.